Okay, so I'm going to do this video really quick. Someone had an Ask HershNoeie, and they were talking about, uh, what what are you, Herschel, in terms of if you are a, um, hold on, let me find the actual email. So it says, "Hey Hersh, I wanted to ask you a question. There's been a lot of talk about alpha males, and you hear people talk about beta males and blah blah blah. What is your definition of it, and what do you consider yourself as?" And you're right. There's a lot of people that like. I'm one of those types of people that kind of just I like to sit back and observe, and it kind of goes into the characteristics of who I am, right? And it's funny because you have people who will use the term alpha often. And they think that that is the best of what a man can be. And that's just not necessarily true, right? And that beta males are guys that are pretty weak. And there are a lot of dudes that are like that. But I'm not either a beta male nor an alpha male, right? Because there's technically alpha, beta, there's delta, there's gamma, and then there's sigma. And I'm more of a sigma guy, right? So I'm going to talk about the first three, and here's kind of, be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. When we're talking about an alpha male, people typically think of someone who is just a go-getter. They are out here building houses or, hunting and this type of thing. They're the type of guy that just dominates. A beta male is someone who gets dominated on, right? Back in the caveman days, it's kind of like the cavemen would go out in a pack and hunt and all this other stuff and then bring food back to the women. And also some of the beta males were the ones that were helping to clean up and prepare and everything else. They didn't bring the beta males out to go on hunts. So what was the point? Right? You do have a lot of people that are beta males. There's a few out there, right? And so you do have a lot of dudes that are considered to be alpha males, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily the best, right? A lot of these beta male guys do get taken advantage of quite a bit because, sometimes women, it's kind of complicated. Women want build a dude. I've said this before, where they want a guy that is manly, but also someone who is some women. Excuse me, they want a guy who's manly, but they also want a guy who is very delicate in many aspects, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so that's just not how reality is. That's not how women are either. You get what I'm saying? There are some women who are alpha females, and they're just not, that's not something that I'm interested in. And most men are not interested in an alpha female. A lot of alpha females are those who end up being single, right? The ones who talk about, I'm all this, I'm all that, I need a man that can be on my level, super argumentative. Those are typically your alpha females. And they end up being very single, right? When you look at the way I look at it in terms of myself, a Sigma guy, and I pulled up some things. They tend to be loners, check. They're flexible, true. They are themselves regardless of who's watching, true. They can lead without exerting authority. They're good listeners, they're self-aware, they have an ambiguous morality, and they have rusty social skills. All of those define me to a T. There's more of them, to a T. Just because you're not an alpha male doesn't mean you can't be a leader. You're just a different type of leader. What else is there? They can fit into friend groups but do not rely on them. Very true. They decide their future. They tend to have a small but close social circles. They're self-sufficient. They aren't afraid to take risks. They aren't attention seekers. They have the potential to be an alpha. And so that's the difference. The big difference between alpha versus sigma females, alpha or sigma males. Alpha males need to have a specific environment to function. So what maybe seemed like a strength is actually kind of a weakness. Flexibility and dominance. Alpha males have a compulsive need to compete and dominate their current environment. Social validation. Alpha males often seen as dominant leaders, but in their established social hierarchy, they have to see what the game is, play it, and win it because they're alphas. They define their self-worth from the dominance of others. Need to belong, humility, perception. It goes into all these different things that I really don't care about. The best way to describe a sigma male, alpha male, and beta male is that in that scenario I gave with the cavemen, the sigma guy is still going to lead both of them and say, you know what, hey, here's a good strategy. I can imagine this, the sigma caveman, and saying, here's a good strategy. How about you go out there and hunt the nearest couple of buffaloes? Probably find a baby buffalo. It's easier to do. And, if you're able to get 2, that's great. Bring them back here. My guy over here will help prepare it along with the ladies, and I'll get the fire going. Make sure that everything's... Why? Because as a sigma, it's more or less, I can gel with pretty much kind of anybody, but I'm also going to take the lead also. I don't necessarily have to be the center of attention or the star quarterback in order to lead, right? I'm able to convince people to do things that they may not have ever thought about. And when it comes to business, that is a good thing because I'm able to convince people, especially competitors, I'm able to convince them. I remember we bought out a shop once, and the guy wanted to sell these products for super high. He was going out of business, and I was able to convince him to go very, very low on a product that he was really going to go high on. And I was able to convince him, and I let him believe that he was leading the whole discussion and leading the whole situation and all of this. But it's really about knowing the temperament of people. How far can you get with someone? How can you negotiate? When you're kind of a sigma guy, you tend to be a little bit more easier to negotiate and figure out solutions that are going to help you move forward. Whereas alphas, they just have to keep nominating in order to move forward. It's not saying one's better than the other. I'm not necessarily saying that. But one of the things I kind of discovered about myself is that's kind of the personality that I am. So could I be an alpha? Yeah. But the choice is not really to be one. I don't try to seek the glory. I don't try to seek validation. Like I tell people a lot of times, I don't really care. When people tell me you have women that say, I'm a PhD, I got my doctorate. It's like, no one cares. Then that's truly, honestly how I feel. It doesn't really impress me. And the funny thing is, Noelle took the same little thing and figured out that she's also a sigma female, right? Because a lot of times she leads also by suggestions and things like that and get things done. So that's probably the reason why we work very well together, is because we understand each other very, very well. We're very similar. But anyhow, hope I answered your question. Make sure you join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. Until next time, I will see you. Take care.